Hello, today we're going to be jumping around modeling a boat, and it's mostly an experience of the truth that complicated looking things are just made up of a bunch of basic kind of things all kind of put together. So there's a few fun techniques in here, but a lot of it's just old-fashioned extruding and all of that. So yeah, here we go. I love modeling boats because kind of as long as it's vaguely boat shaped, who's to say that you're wrong? And so kit bashing stuff like this together to fill in scenes, I think is a blast. And there's some mocap on these guys as well here if we turn off the corrective smoothing, and doing little IK things. So it's kind of like this pole, the poles are tracking their hands, so it's a easy way to attach it to the mocap. And this has got a little IK chain that's kind of going to that. Anyways, so these are fun. And over the years, I've made a bunch of these that I'm putting in the back of the scene. And I like this kind of weird yellow kayak kind of deal. And yeah, over the years, I've accumulated a lot of these. But now I have to build a real boat that exists in real life, and I'm feeling kind of intimidated. And those of you who watched the last video have already seen this shot. This is a boat we actually got to film on for like 5 days. We filled it full of dirty people, and they're running around, you know, fighting robots and everything. And the actual boat is cool, but I want to push it even further into the realm of sci-fi by covering it with, you know, big cranes loading stuff and additional rooms and kind of smokestacks, and just making it fit a little bit more into the world I have going. But that means first, to do that, I have to model basically the entire real boat, and I'm finding that pretty intimidating. Here's where it's at right now, and this took a while to get here actually, but that's because I'm trying to make the base actually to scale correctly. Here's a quick photo scan from the side. Nathan Vegdahl kind of walked along the shore and took a bunch of pictures of it, and that's good for at least getting kind of a point of reference. And then I also went into Google Maps here, and that was some good reference too, so I kind of got a top view of the boat that helped me get some of these proportions right. But now, even just looking at this, I'm like, there's such a big gulf between this right here and the actual complexity of just the entire boat. And I hate this stage where when you look at the model, all you can see is the million things that like you have to do. And even if you do one thing, like if I take some time to build like a little module that goes on the deck, then I zoom out and it still just reinforces, look, all right, I've got one module. So my only goal today is just to get this to a point where it looks like an actual boat, where it feels like I'm actually playing with it instead of like starting from zero. And that's going to involve a lot of speed modeling and different techniques, so I thought maybe that could be a fun video. Let's start with stairs here. Or we're so close to starting the beginning, I just want to take a step back and kind of show how I modeled the whole, because it's really easy. With anything with kind of interesting curvature like that I want to keep really smooth, I always try to just start very low poly and kind of iterate. So it looks like this goes back here and kind of tapers down into the stern there. It's literally just like modeling it so low res like this, and then it goes up to the front, and I skinny that up, and then I just start kind of iterating. Control R, add an edge loop, scale it up like that, go to the side view, extrude it down, and we're basically almost done. Here I'm going to use Control R to add another edge loop here. Select the bottom, Shift G, select similar coplanar, just selects the whole thing. Pull that in. Select this loop, Control B, bevel. We can scale, kind of figure that out. And the same thing with like right here. Control B, smooth that to the degree you want. Maybe we round this out a little bit too. And if we're looking from the side, maybe the deck kind of has some bits where it goes up and down. We can just grab this right here, pull that up, and then bevel these loops too, kind of round that out just slightly. We can select this whole top bit. Hit I to inset, extrude it down. If we want, we can just keep smoothing here. I'm going to grab this loop, double tap G to slide it down and smooth it, except then we get some weird intersections here. So sometimes you want to change the bevel from offset to percent, which will just fill the available space that it has. I love using bevel mostly for smoothing these days. Here we can do Control R, maybe pull out the front of that a little bit too. And also proportional editing. So if we grab one of these front vertices here, turn on proportional editing, that means whatever we do will kind of have an impact like that. So we could tuck this in, and maybe even this whole back bit also. And you start to get kind of more interesting shapes really easily, while also having fairly good clean geometry. I already have this mostly to scale. It's 212 feet long, which means I should just be able to really rely on the reference and everything should just kind of play nice. So let's see if we can find... Nathan got a lot of pictures of the boat. While we were filming on the boat, Nathan was kind of like operating in the periphery, getting photo scans and HDRIs and things. And a lot of it's really good reference, but it isn't really enough to actually do a full photo scan. And also, like, the lighting wasn't really optimal. I was so excited because we were filming in the middle of November, and I was like, ooh, we'll get this nice, dark, kind of gloomy boat thing. And it was literally sunny, cloudless skies. That never happens in Seattle in November. It was good though, because after this last episode of just pure darkness the entire time, I'm really having a fun time just rendering sunlight again. But yeah, okay, stairs. Looks like they're like twice as tall as they are long. I don't really care about the specifics. Like, I'm never really going to be trying to do a direct blend between the real boat and the digital boat in this kind of way. Like, I might try to have a digital background or something, but I'm not gonna... It doesn't have to be millimeter precise. And I could have sworn you could just drag and drop... Oh, okay, cool. There we go. Looks like we have about 11 steps here, so I'm just gonna create a plane and kind of get it in the right position, basically. Yeah, that's probably good. And I'm gonna give it 10 cuts. Would 10 cuts split it into 11 parts? I think so. One of those old fence post problems. And I want to split these all up, and if you hit Y, it'll separate them out, but if you select all of them and hit Y, it will separate it all as a single piece. So what I want to do is go select, check or deselect, and then hit Y, and now each of these faces is its own piece. If I select them all and go to individual origins, SZ0, I'm scaling them all to 0 on the Z axis, and let's make them a little bit deeper too. Then extrude them downwards. And hey, there we go. All right, those are some good steps. I might select this face right here and duplicate it, scale it up a little bit, grab these, extrude them all the way out like this. Maybe even pull that out a tad. Okay, so I'm gonna hit Control R to add an edge loop here. I'm gonna slide it down to the bottom, and I'm gonna try to slide this a little bit so it's, yeah, perpendicular to that. Can do the same thing up here, and the whole reason for that is so that I can subdivide this and have everything kind of square, so that when I select everything, extrude it out, I can select these faces and hit I, maybe I hit it a couple times, and inset each panel, extrude it in. And that doesn't look great, but it is more detail. It kind of makes it look like maybe, you know, this is ribbing kind of like from the folded steel welded together to keep everything rigid, which is I'm just trying to give, along with actually modeling stuff, I just want to give the illusion of there being more detail, so when you see the boat in a wide, you go, yeah, there's enough stuff on that boat. I don't know. Cool, and I'm going to give it this material I already have going, like that. Going to apply the scale of everything, and I think for every object I model, I'm going to try to add, like, I'm going to build one bracket, because this thing should have lots of brackets. In fact, you can see last night I already modeled these guys, and I can just stick those everywhere to add a little bit of depth. Again, it's all about trying to give that illusion, like that feeling of, oh yeah, there's enough boat stuff on there that it doesn't feel like it's a low poly model. Ooh, I should work on this deck texture at some point, but let's see, what is that called? Okay, it's just called deck. I'm gonna grab the tops of all of these, just gonna hit Shift G, select by similar normal, and here we can get rid of these ones, I guess. Gonna add a new material slot and load in deck, and just assign deck to that. And okay, let's see what else we got. We have a lot of these objects kind of scattered around, and those wouldn't be too hard to model. We've got so many of it is just white boxes, which I think is kind of cool. I think maybe I should just let it be that easy. Like, let's model this box right there. I think it's just right here. I'm gonna go cube, scale it out, lift up this side, inset this, extrude it down. And then just adding some extra doodads here. And maybe to add some little feet. Control R, fatten that up, add some edges here. I'm just gonna grab these three and pull them down a little bit. And cool. Yeah, that's a decent box. Here, we'll scale it to the ground so it looks better compared to this person. I just like having people kind of scattered around as a point of reference. And now that I have this here, let's see. Let's find a good material for this. I want kind of a one size fits all deal. I think I'm I'm gonna do a little bit of beveling on it just so that hopefully it catches some sunlight in kind of an interesting way as like the sun's moving over the ship. It's nice to have slightly rounded edges. You still get those highlights. I got this. Let's give it a new material. We'll call this just white boxes, and it might take a second to find a good material for that, but let's find an image texture and see if just in my root ancient texture folder from all the CG texture stuff over the past like 25 years, if there's anything good in here. Because it takes surprisingly little grime to turn something from like straight white into just a white material type thing. I mean, that's kind of interesting. Like that's kind of interesting. Maybe that or this. Let's try this one. I'm gonna select everything and hit U, cube projection, open up the UV editor and make sure that it's actually using a lot of the material here. Maybe rotate it to fit a little better. Great, that's excellent. And just for fun, I'm gonna duplicate it way too many times just to give myself more stuff on the deck. I'll get rid of these as time goes on. But again, most of this is about psychology for me. Like I want to see the boat covered in stuff as quickly as possible, and then my perfectionism takes over and I'll go back and I'll actually kind of try to do things a little bit more properly. But yeah, already that feels... they might all be a little bit too big. I'm doing instances of everything. That's where I hit Alt-D instead of Shift-D. And with Alt-D, you can control everything at once, whereas Shift-D makes a whole new instance. You probably knew that. And right now, if I scale it down, everything will also, you know, move inwards up into the air, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to Shift right-click to set the 3D cursor there, swap the transform point to 3D cursor, and now it'll all scale towards that instead, keeping all of these boxes down on the ground. That's just a thing I do quite a bit. And let's see, what's next? I'm having trouble for a couple reasons. Like, first, I would never design a model like this. Like, just having, here's a wall, and here we've just lined up our assets. This looks like somebody got an asset pack of boat stuff and didn't know what to do with it. So, like, here's a ladder, here's this object, here's a light, here's this pipe. And I'm like, where's that pipe going? That pipe obviously isn't going anywhere. I mean, it is, but like, that's kind of the vibe I'm getting from the actual real life location. And so I'm trying to figure out how to embrace that while also, oh, Danny actually gave this to us. That's so funny. On the day when we were leaving, Danny stopped Lux and was like, hey, do you want this plate? So that's somewhere around here. Let's model this one. Look at this. This is the most 3D modeled thing I've ever seen in my entire life. It's like, it's got one out, it's got two, and a little door on top. Let's just do it. I've already got one here. We'll just start over. We'll do it better. I'm going to create a cube, and in edit mode, I'm going to scale it down, just kind of try to match the proportions. Again, the nice thing is I'm not forcing myself to actually worry too much about matching the real world dimensions. Like, I don't think it'll ever really matter as long as it's not distractingly wrong. So let's use Control R, add a loop here and right here. Going to hit Control B to bevel both of those loops, and then Alt E, extrude the faces out along the normals. Maybe we'll pull this loop out a little bit more with Alt S. Alt S just brings things out along the direction they're facing, and it's really handy for just being like, move straight out without having to, like, you know, go out and move things on the axis, especially if it's rotated like this. This will still work, whereas if you're trying to, like, then still move it on an axis, you're getting that weird skew. Just a little thing. Gonna duplicate this, scale it up. Gonna grab one of these edges and kind of pull it up as a lip, select that whole thing and go Alt E, extrude faces as along normals, check offset even, which just kind of squares up this weird skew here. Alt click on this loop, maybe round it out just a tad. Gonna select these outer loops here, and maybe each of these outer edges too. Control B, bevel. I'm trying not to go too crazy with the geometry, but also, like, this model is gonna be the basis of most of the CG that we're gonna see in, like, an entire episode, so I don't mind giving it, you know, maybe more than I should. Let's take a look at what do these levers actually look like. All right, they're just a cylinder bolt with, like, another two other cylinders coming out of it. Great, that's easy. Let's create a cylinder here. I'm gonna use a lot of them, so I'm gonna keep it nice and low poly in this case. Shrink it down, bring it up, duplicate that, maybe inset, and we'll just have the bolt on top be that. And hello, editor Ian here, and as the editor, I'm getting bored because conceptually, yeah, we get it. You're gonna stack some cylinders. Actually, watching me position those cylinders in 3D space, like hitting G, R, X, Y, Z, all that a million times, isn't actually all that interesting. So, considering this is the original video here is 4 hours long, I might start just cutting to the good bits. Trust me, you're missing nothing. I'm just copying and pasting cylinders and moving them around. And then I realized I moved them around incorrectly, so I redid it. It's better this way. And that feels pretty good. Here, let's just link the material from this other piece here. Select this and hit U, cube projection, and make sure it's kind of matching on the UV editor over here. And we have this other type of material on top, which is, and at some point I want to talk about this. What I want, obviously, is that big, nice, old, rusty, you know, dirty Alaskan fishing boat kind of thing. But in general, like this is an old military boat. They're pretty good at covering it in that maritime white, because the moment the salty seawater starts to get in, it leads to rust and the entire boat sinks. And so they're usually pretty good at making sure everything's covered in paint. But that means this is kind of the least interesting possible texture in a way, of just this flat white, and when the sun hits it, it blows out, or it's I don't know. I might see if I can overlay some sort of rust or something on it, which is actually one of the things I'm trying to do with the boat, is see, can I use this as a starting point and push the whole thing in a slightly more rusty, aged, textured direction. So I have my own new bits, which will be really rusty, and then I just try to take the stuff we captured in real life and push it slightly, split the difference kind of thing, but have it all feel cohesive. But let's go back in here and see if we can just create that material. Gonna select this whole top piece, gonna give it a new material assign. Let's call it boring gray. Yeah, great. In the shader editor, I'm going to select this shader and hit Control T, pull up the mapping nodes, and let's see if we already got some gray. See, like this right here. Give me something like that. Oh yeah, but no, that's not what we're doing. Maybe I'll do this. That's a cool one. And here we'll go into the UV editor. It looks like I have it stretched, so I'm just gonna rotate it 90 degrees and try filling it out the other way. And yeah, okay, that feels a little bit more natural here. Yeah, that feels really good. Right now it's perfectly flat, so just for now, again, this is the quick stuff, and then later if things bother me, and like when I'm setting up actual renders, I'll go give it a little bit more attention. But let's plug the image into the normal map through a bump map, plug it into the height, set the distance like 0.02, and that doesn't do much in this case, but it does give it that texture that I wanted, and it means the specular is a little bit more interesting. Here we can drag this into the specular also, and then the brighter parts will be a little bit shinier than the dark parts. I like this. I like, too, that it looks like it recently rained and it's only half evaporated, which is a look you get quite a bit, actually, around Seattle. And it's one I wouldn't mind incorporating into the boat, too. But here, let's grab this entire thing. I'm going to slide it over to this one too. They kind of had two ports. It was really cool because they had these hatches that could open up and cranes could lift things all the way from the top deck down to the bottom deck, all the way through there. And I always think it's cool when like sci-fi vehicles have an exterior and an interior that are kind of connected. That's actually why we have this scene right here. There's going to be something being lifted out of the hole, and you're going to see it on the inside and outside. And I think that'll just do something to kind of make it all feel contiguous. See, this is the texture I want. I hate this stuff. Maybe I can just replace it. Here, I'm gonna the boring gray. I'm gonna call this wet gray. I'm going to select this upper stuff, and instead of the deck on these top pieces, I'm going to change that to wet gray. Already I'm liking the boat more. Okay, a lot of this is just a texturing issue, and we can fix that over time. But here I'm going to scale these all to fit. And what is next? I think I like these weird boxes because we can stick those everywhere. They're nice and subtle. I could use them on the roof. You can just they're good greebly filler. So let's see. It's like a dome on top, just half a cylinder, a box with like protrusions, a fold down kind of lid, other stuff. I think we can just kind of model that nice and easy here. Maybe make it a little bit longer. Pull it up. Go down like that. Making the base first, so I'm gonna inset, extrude. The outer parts were kind of slanting down because I think they're vents, and that's to protect them from the rain. We'll just do that like this. Select this edge right there, duplicate this, rotate around the 3D cursor to make kind of a little door, extrude, inset, extrude. And on top here, we'll create our cylinder. We'll give it like maybe 24 edges. Rotate it 90 degrees. And what's the best way to cut this in half? Like, we could just select all of these and say scale down to 0. Scale down to 0. And then we have a little bit of extra geometry. But you know what? Computers, they can handle it. So we'll stick this on top. Maybe down here it gets inset for where it mounts onto the ground. We'll have kind of a little thing sticking out like that. Another little flange going out. And the big thing that really sells the realism for all of this is having little mounting points. Like if you look at the real thing, we've got all of these places for, I don't even know, these are the latches for that. Okay, yeah, just things to attach things to things. They don't even really have to make sense. So let's model another one of those real fast. I've modeled so many of these things in my life. We'll do that. Like at some point, I just should make an actual little library because this part right here, I'm always like, what's the best way to do this? Maybe just bridge faces, and then I can kind of bevel these, and it's like, look, it's a, I don't know. But again, it's going to be very, very small. I'm going to move it so that the origin is at the very, very base here. So in theory, I can just turn on snap to face using a line rotation to target and stick it right there. And right there. Maybe a few on the outside of here. One down here. Cool. And now change this back to increment. And we just clean those up a little bit. Select all these, join them to the main object. How's that look? Ah, that looks fine. Okay, let's try to find a new material for this. I want to find that nice one-size-fits-all material that I can just slap on everything. But I never model anything that's white. Like everything always has got to be a wacky color or gray or metal or something. I never do just like clean white, and so this is kind of crazy for me. But let's do another interesting white, and let's take a while to actually try to find something. Like if we go to metal, I guess painted, and we just hope they have got some like nice clean, like that's kind of like, I want something that actually does have some of the manufacturing evidences of like being riveted or having seams and things. This one could be good. It just might be a little bit too dirty, but let's try saving it and seeing how it looks just right out the gate here. Probably have to select everything and hit U, cube projection, and scale it up kind of like that. And it doesn't look great, but let's try being a little less lazy. I'm going to select this right here and line it up with like this seam so that stuff actually is correlated, you know, between the texture and the, even already that looks better. And I'll select this right here, or can I line up this seam here? I'm going to select from here over to here, hit U, unwrap just to get that nice. And what happens if I line that up with the actual seams in the texture? Yeah, that's feeling better. Okay, so we'll just do that real fast. In fact, a lot of times if you overshoot the edge a little bit, like we're going off here, you get that in the material, and it implies that there's more geometry than there even really is. So if you compare like this one to this one, oh yeah. I love this process. I know some people don't, but this is where everything kind of comes to life for me. That said, what's the best way to unwrap this? Is it just here? Select right here and hit Control E, mark seam, so that way we can select this whole loop, and hit U, unwrap, and it'll kind of unwrap it straight. UV squares to grid by shape, and now I should just be able to stick that there. And alright, we can select these faces in here, and I don't know, I don't want to set up a whole additional material. Maybe I will. Here, we'll just create a new one and call it grill. I'm gonna use this object a lot, so I don't mind spending some time on it. Assign those to that. We're gonna do our same thing, but the image texture is just gonna be a picture of a grill. Ooh, maybe that. You unwrap, select. Great, yeah. And here, if we inset that, and then extrude them in, just adds a little bit more realism. Okay, here, let's play with the shader a little bit. I'm going to plug this into the bump so we can get these chipped paint bits actually getting a little bit of depth to them. Vector bump map into the height, distance like 0.02. Yeah, I mean, that's already working pretty darn good. Let's make sure our scale is applied, because that can affect the height of the bump mapping. Maybe turn that down just a little bit. Turn down the roughness. And I might put in a RGB curve here so I can kind of push everything a little bit brighter. And then let's see how that looks compared to everything else. I also already made this kind of silly little group. I haven't even named it yet, but that adds a little bit of ambient occlusion and grime to everything so that if it's close to another object, it mixes in basically some ambient occlusion. I've made videos about that, but I can do another one. I like this too because it kind of looks like a barbecue. Here, let's stick some of these up here on the roof for now too. Ooh, now that's feeling pretty good. What's next? This is finally reaching the point where it's kind of fun because instead of being overwhelmed, all I'm starting to see is like tiny, quick little projects. Like a ladder, oh, that's easy. Or like these little supports holding up the roof, those are cool. Or this pipe right here that's kind of cutting into the roof, that's going to make an impact on kind of the silhouette of the ship, I think, in a nice way. So let's just do some of those. I'm going to add my 3D cursor here with shift right click. Let's create a plane, rotate it 90 degrees, scale it down, kind of line it up with, come on, right there. And I think it's just going to be as easy as pulling this out, this up, grabbing these edges, extruding them out, selecting everything, hitting Alt-E, extrude faces along normals, offset even. Make sure the normals are correct. And I don't use modifiers a lot, but I think I want to for this, for setting up the array. And it's basically because every time I've got to figure out like which axis is it that I want to move it on. Like, okay, there we go. That's pretty good. And I think I might even want to overdo them just because they do add some visual interest for really cheap. Here, maybe we'll make it a little bit shorter. I don't trust modifiers. No, I do. It's just sometimes you have a modifier and then every time you tweak the object, it has to recalculate everything. So in general, I just like to apply them so that Blender knows exactly what the geometry is without having to always think about it. Like I've got these booleans going into the main superstructure here, but as soon as I can, I'm going to apply it. I'm still tweaking all of the locations of those holes. Let's put another one over on the other side. And okay, yeah, that does quite a bit. Okay, good. Next, let's do one of those weird little pipes kind of sticking up. I'm just going to do that from memory because I think it's pretty basic. It's just a pipe with another pipe coming out of it. And we'll take these ones here and extrude them that way. Delete all of those. Delete these top ones. Delete this bottom one. Maybe we'll extrude these out to the side too, kind of where they mount to the wall. Make it a little taller. I'm gonna line up the mounting point with the origin just to make my life a little bit easier. And we'll have this pipe go like that, make it a little more interesting, giving it a little taper. Go down there. This can be where it intersects the floor. And then we'll just kind of give it a rain cap kind of thing. I'll duplicate this for the top. Scale. Yeah, let's see how that looks on the deck. So yeah, scattered those around a little bit. I think I like that. I'm going to add a boolean right here, kind of eat into the roof, which I think hopefully will make it feel like it's less, everything just kind of feels like it's geometry. So I think I need to break up some of these larger shapes a little bit. Scale that down. Just has to be big enough for that. Apply the scale. Can select these edge loops here. Select this, shift click on this, control negative, and let's see. I feel like this should be green. Like it should be transferring index based back to index based. And that's interesting. It is sometimes green as I move this around. I wonder if there's a way to make it consistent one way or the other. Fortunately, it doesn't really matter. But all I have to do is in edit mode, put this wherever I have the other ones here. This is going to throw off a little bit when we do the railings, because I was going to have the railings use these edge loops, but that's a minor thing. But that's one of the other hard things about this, is there's kind of an order of operations deal. Like there's a most efficient way to do all of this, and this isn't maybe necessarily that. Let's see how that looks here. It doesn't really even make a difference at all. Okay, so this white material, I hate it so much, but that's the color that the actual boat is, and so I kind of got to stick with it a little bit. And right now it's just an RGB color going into the base color, going through a node group that adds grime. Again, it's just an ambient occlusion combined with a noise texture, but I'm gonna probably develop this grime group to do a little bit more like edge wear and stuff, so I can throw it on anything and it'll get that kind of boat look once I have this all dialed in. But until then, I want something more interesting than this. Like, imagine if it were just like, oh, look at that. Oh, I love that. That's so much better. But no, okay. I found a texture that I think will work really well, and it's this one right here. It's just like peeled tape and stuff coming off the edges, and oh, that's dang. Okay, yeah, that's really good. I'm going to use the object texture coordinates, and I'm just going to use this same, and I'm going to change it to box, so it'll apply from any direction, which means now I can turn the scale down to like 0.1, 0.1, 0.1. And oh, that looks so good. Okay, that's great for my sanity. Next thing I want to do is see if I can find a better thing for this. I'm just going to try putting a road on it, basically. Do I have deck selected? Yeah, I found a road material, and it probably won't work great, but let's try selecting this and lining it up with the road. I mean, if nothing else, it isn't even like high res enough really to do the job, but I mean, it kind of works, kind of. I think I really want to turn down all of this specularity. Let's just keep it nice and diffuse, and it looks too blue compared to the other white stuff, so I might see if I can divide out, kind of warm it up a little bit, just use a mix color node and divide some of this base color out just by selecting it, change the value to 1, and ideally that'll just kind of let us fix the white balance a tad. Maybe I'll keep that until I find something better, and I'll remap up here too, select the deck, and just line that up with the UVs a little bit better. Let's do doors. I want to fill in all those weird awkward holes. It looks like this door is a little more rectangular than a lot of the other ones, but I think it still shows really good. There's like a lip sticking out, and this folds over it. We've got some latches, hole in the middle, and I've duplicated the Boolean object here so we know it's the same size. So let's go into edit mode here. I'm going to select this and hit Y to separate it, and this will be the door shape, but then also we'll use this bit to kind of be that lip. Delete the inner stuff here, and maybe just select this loop and expand it outwards a little bit. I'm going to grab this and go in. Maybe give it even a little bit more depth. I'm going to inset. This will be kind of the recessed lip, and then we'll go in again and pull it out so it's kind of, what I'm trying to imply is that it's a single piece of steel that's kind of been form fit into this thing. And then if I grab this loop, I can hit Control B to bevel it out and extrude it in, and there we go. Now we've kind of got our seal, which should more or less fit over here, but also I don't particularly care because we're never actually going to get close enough to see it, and if so, I've got bigger problems. I can take this, bevel that slightly, maybe give all this some depth with extruding along normals. And then a hinge. How many hinges have I modeled in my life? I'm going to Shift S, cursor to selected, so I can make a cylinder that appears just exactly right there. I'm going to turn the vertices way down. Maybe pull it out a little bit, and I'm going to grab, I'm going to duplicate this for maybe the top and bottom, grab some of these faces here and extrude them like that. I just want to make something that can kind of wrap around the door and add a little bit more depth. So if we kind of go like this, maybe pull that, grab these pieces and pull them back in so it just barely kind of reaches around the front of the door. And maybe add a little bolt just to be overkill. Yeah, great. Gonna pull these like that, and these will be mounted to the back wall, so maybe I'll just kind of go like this, extrude these faces out like that, flop the angle, and yeah, that's a pretty decent hinge up here in the middle. down at the bottom. Let's select this face, Shift S, cursor to selected, so it's right in the middle, so that then we can make a another cylinder. We'll give it a few more rings here. Scale it down. This will be the window. I think it's slightly higher than the middle. I could check, but I won't. Do our Boolean, apply our Boolean, and then for the future, I'm gonna grab one of these here, one of these rings, like that, and just copy it, hit F to turn it into a face and put it inside the window. So if I ever want to put glass in it, that should be really easy. Although we'll also probably be seeing the doors open, so I want to have a little bit of detail on the inside. So let's select all this, inset it just a little bit so I can grab this ring, pop it out, and put our glass right in there. That's cool. In fact, if we wanted to be really cool, we could go from this to this and hit J. And here, I'm going to dissolve that one with a Control X. But yeah, I'm going to do that with a few of these. Create some ribs with J. Try to keep them kind of symmetrical here if I can. That looks, looks pretty bad, but that's okay. Let's see. Let's inset all of this. Extrude it in a little. And maybe expand that so we can pull that out. Then pull it back in so I can really give these a little bit of depth here. And I think I'll just keep these as two separate objects. So I'll separate all of this out and hit P, separate by selection. I want it to rotate on the hinges, so I might just grab the top and bottom of one of these right here and hit cursor to selected, so I can right click, set origin to, set origin to the 3D cursor. So now it'll rotate on that, and I'll parent this to that one and line it up a little bit better. And let's just model a little door handle, scale it down, maybe use a little bit less geometry than that. Rotate it, flatten it out, inset, extrude, and I'm not even gonna make it like a nautical handle. I'm just gonna make it like a regular kind of office handle. I don't care. Those regular handles look weird. Yeah, there we go. And here we'll continue it on this side too, kind of the same way they really work in real life. Maybe we'll bevel all this out. So now in theory, it should be pretty easy to just stick these all back in the door. And that's looking pretty good. We can just open them too. Ooh, that's kind of cool to see the sunlight in there. Path tracers are so cool. We do have to figure out what material to give this. Maybe we can just use this same material again. Look at that. That's already feeling great. Okay, so I'm just going to stick these in every door. And okay, yeah, that's working good. I like this kind of tape material so much that I think I'm going to use it for more than just this one material. This will be called taped wall, and I'll make another here, and we'll just call this tape wall dark. And all I got to do with that is in the shader editor, we take our tape, and I'm going to use a mix color node to multiply in whatever value I want to kind of darken it up just a little. Yeah, that breaks things up pretty good. Maybe it's a little bit too dark, but I can always tweak that later. And it's also nice to have just so that if I want, I can like use it anywhere else. And this is feeling better, but it's still just feeling so monochromatic. And if I go into the grime node group and kind of give this a little bit more color, kind of as if it's a little bit of a rust kind of thing. I don't know if you can see that in the corners there, but I think that adds quite a bit, and I think I want to lean more into a rust direction. So I got another rust texture that I want to combine with this kind of tape material here. In fact, I'm just going to duplicate this and use a mixed color node to multiply these together. Load in our rust, and it's going to be way too much right off the bat. I just kind of want to see what it looks like, and ooh, that fits really good. But for the mix factor, I'm going to use some noise. So let's create a noise texture here. I'm gonna just drag that. Well, let's just look at that. And in the mapping nodes, I'm gonna scale it vertically so it's very stretched. Maybe tighten up some of these a little bit too. And this is going to power the prevalence of the rust. And we're making it vertical, so ideally we'll mix in the darker areas will be the rust, so you'll just get streaks of it, and it'll feel kind of natural, and we can kind of mix it the way we want. So first I'm gonna add a brightness contrast thing in here, and then I'm gonna dial it in with a color ramp. So just darken some of that. I think let's keep the dark areas and the white parts will stay clean. And now we can control how much is dark by changing the brightness. And if we plug this into the mix factor, what happens? Okay, it's the opposite of what we want. That's okay. Here, I might just swap them. and change the brightness. And that works okay. Here, let's change the scale a little bit. Turn the detail up. Oh, that's feeling really good. That's a good texture. If we combine this with ambient occlusion, and normally I think ambient occlusions are kind of heavy shader-wise, so a lot of times I try to drag them all from the same ambient occlusion node, so it's only calculating it once. I don't know if any of that's really true. That's just the thing I do. But in this case, the ambient occlusion node is inside this group, so I'm just going to do it again. Input ambient occlusion, and if I mix these together, we'll see how this goes. First, ambient occlusion is darker around where we want it, so I'm going to, I guess, just use another color ramp thing here and swap them like that. And if I add these values to our other noise texture right here, we'll get a result that looks like this. So we get our streaks going all the way down, but we also have everywhere at the top and bottom are going to be more rusty. And let's see if that actually kind of works. Yeah, it does. It kind of gives us a base and a top here. It feels like the wall is actually kind of coming into contact. I might tweak. Yeah, that works good. And what I like about this is the bigger the object is, like around it, the more the ambient occlusion will affect it. So you'll get these just kind of rusty areas right underneath, and it'll sort of just enhance all of the shadows on there. Like if we have overhangs and things like that, you just get more rust kind of centered around where those objects are. So that's the thing I've been enjoying lately, because it is an easy way to make the material echo the actual thing going on. And right now the light reflection is a little bit uniform, so let's just use this and plug that into the index of refraction level 2, going through another color ramp. And you can see right here, as we drag this up, the dark areas block out the reflections of the sun. We can dial in everything else as much as we want. But enough dabbling in shaders. Let's finally do railings. And just to keep things cleaner, I'm going to talk about railings in this little project right here. And we've talked about railings a bunch of different times, like how to do, you know, easy kind of wrought iron stuff and all of that. But railings are a thing I like to go really hard on, or not put any effort into it all. And in this case, because we're doing so much of them, I think I'm going to try to do a really fast, quick version, and then just up-res them and replace them when I need to, and if like a shot ever gets too close to the boat. But yeah, let's say this is kind of some weird shape on the hull or something. Tab into edit mode. We can select these. We can inset and maybe extrude them down to give a lip. But regardless, we're just going to alt-click on this outer edge here, Shift D to duplicate it, and extrude it up. Hold down Z to kind of lock it there. And if we want, we can use Control R, add another edge loop here. And because we duplicated it, it's not attached to anything, so we can just hit P, separate by selection, and now it's its own object. We can select everything and hit Alt-S to move it. Whoa, okay. And like I say elsewhere in the video, Alt-S is supposed to move everything out along the normal direction, so the fact that everything is kind of going in different directions implies that we have weird face orientations. And to fix that, we can just hit Shift N, and that recalculates the normal. So now the red is inside and the blue is outside. So if I hit Alt S, it all goes either out or in. So I might tuck this in a little bit. And okay, so there's two different methods of basically turning this into a railing. And the first one is go under Modifiers tab, Generate, and Skin. And right now it's skinning everything really thick, so if we hit Control A, we can scale everything down if we're in edit mode. And this actually looks really good to me. I like this. And if we want, we can use Control R, just add some more geometry here, make all the posts kind of equidistant. If we think there's too many, we could also like select that and hit X, dissolve only edges, and it'll get rid of that one. And if we check smooth shading, it even makes it look a little bit more like that. Works really well just as is. And I like it because if you select an edge, wherever there's geometry, it'll put a railing as long as you mark a route. Each island has to have its own route for whatever reason. I don't know why. Unfortunately, this can get pretty heavy pretty fast. In fact, when I tried to do this to the boat, it brought everything to a crawl. So what I did instead was I used the wireframe modifier. So you go modifier, generate, wireframe, and this does basically the same thing but much lighter, but it does come with a few restrictions. First, it just doesn't look quite as good. Here we can check boundary, and that kind of fills it in a little bit, but you'll see there needs to be a face. So right here we deleted this face, even though there's geometry here, and up here we've got edges. It's not going to actually do anything. You have to have the face filled in, which is easy enough to do in general. Like here, if we connect these and select them all and hit F, that turns it into a face, and then we'll have the geometry. But we can't just like pull random stuff out and have it be, you know, a little line, which is a little bit of a bummer, because sometimes that would be handy. But in general, the skin modifier is actually really cool, and the fact that you can, I wonder what he was actually designed for. I think it was designed for characters, so you could kind of like just create arms and all that in here. If we select these ones and hit Control A to fatten them up a little bit, and then shade smooth, you can just make a really fast, low poly character. Hello. Okay, and it's a new day. I just swapped out the HDRI, and it feels good. It's finally feeling like I'm looking at, like, getting that first glimpse of what it could actually kind of feel like. I think I want to model one of these now. This is on the lower deck, just kind of another little stick out with a pipe coming out of it. Just gonna do a cube. Delete this back. Maybe delete all of these faces here. Bring these forward. Bevel these. Extrude the whole thing, and to make the pipe inside, I'll do like a little torus, which I never know. I always feel like I get the radiuses wrong, but something like that will probably work good. Let's just delete all of those, extrude these down. Come on, extrude. Sometimes this box select isn't working as well these days. Like, what's up with that? I'm selecting it, and it only works sometimes, but that's okay. Okay, we'll do this. I'm gonna turn each of these into a face, which will make it easier to inset and do some stuff with. These ones I can extrude out, and that's probably fine. Kind of like that. Yeah, great. I'll do a little flange down at the base, and right click shade to angle. Yeah. And something I'm looking at, there's so many little random protrusions. Like if you look right here, just the number of hooks and mounts and like fire hose, whatever, you know, attachment points and rails. Then like if I just modeled some of those and used literally a particle system to scatter them across the outside of the boat, maybe that would be kind of cool. And I'm talking with CG Matter, Default Cube, really smart guy, and he's been helping me make some kind of procedural tools for this episode, and one of them is a scattering type system. So maybe I'll see if I can use that to just kind of like actually model some things and scatter them properly, because that could be really useful for a lot of different things, even outside of this context. The deck has this kind of lip to it. Let's see if it's as easy as just selecting all these top faces here. If I select this and hit Shift G, select similar, well, that's the same direction. Let's see, coplanar is anything that's in line with that same face. Yeah, we get the whole deck, and we can just hit I to inset it the tiniest bit. And how far down can we extrude it? That means everything that we've placed on the deck is now going to be off a little bit. Maybe we don't bring that down as much as we bring this outer lip up. Cool, and yeah, that gives us this nice kind of shadow around there too. I think that does quite a bit. Maybe I'll do that up here as well. Oh wow, yeah, that lip makes a huge difference. Okay, and there's lots of cool stuff up here. I kind of feel like I'll probably add that at some point, but at this point we get the idea of what adding little doodads to the outside look like. I want to work on something a little bit more substantial now. I think there's like just large boxes. Okay, well one of these crates could be kind of fun. Here, let's just create our cube, scale it down in edit mode. Let's see, I want to add a lid first, and I'll pop this out, then just basically subdivide, grab all of these faces here. Let's grab these. Actually, let's combine. Let's dissolve that one. Yeah, and we'll grab this like that, and all these ones. And this might be too many polygons for just a simple crate, but we'll see. It isn't that many, I guess. But yeah, you know, it's fine. Yeah, it's fine. I'm not a big fan, but it catches the light kind of in an interesting way, so I will keep it. And, oh, let's add a railing. I'm gonna see if I can grab this edge and this edge. Maybe delete these bottom pieces here, and then if I duplicate it, and what's the best way to do this? Maybe I'll extrude it out like that, and then up. And here, I'm gonna dissolve this one on both sides. Do the usual thing where we kind of maybe smooth that out a little bit. And if we separate this and join it into this other mesh, it should automatically become a railing. Ooh, that works really good, actually. Nice, okay. Very Titanic. That's yesterday's coffee. This is today's coffee. Look at this. Oh, there's just so much stuff on the outside. I was thinking, oh, maybe I'm getting kind of close, but I'm at like 5%. There's all of these panels. Again, I'm not trying to match it exactly, but like this is just demonstrating there's so much more room. Like I love these big doors with just all of those handles on it right there. And let's do some ladders. Looks like this has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rungs starting kind of below where the roof is, and it goes up high to the top of the railing. I think we can do that really easy here. I'm gonna create a plane here. We're just gonna do it the same way we did the railings. Rotate this like this. The radius of the curve around the top will be kind of like that, and then I can just pull this one down to the top and this one all the way down, and if I delete only faces and then delete only edges and then bevel these out and separate them to the amount I want. Let's see, where should this go? Let's just put it right here in the middle. And for the rungs, I'm going to duplicate these, hit F to connect them, and I don't know how to equally space it, but I might just go like Shift Z1, select these, 2, 4, so we've got, yeah, 8 now. I'm going to delete one of them, and now whatever I scale these to, they'll evenly spaced, so I can just kind of stick it like that, hopefully. Yeah, that feels pretty good. I'm gonna use the skin modifier now because I think we actually don't have too much geometry for it this time. For every individual island of geometry, we have to add a root, so we can do that there, and I can also select all these ones right here and mark root and skinny it all up. Maybe I'll have the outside fatter and the rungs be a little bit thinner. Take this other railing and delete these faces. Make a nice gap for it. I actually like working with the railings like this. Like, it doesn't look, it's the worst railing I've ever done. Look at that. It doesn't even have like, it's just half of a railing actually, but it's so easy to work with. Oh yeah, that totally works. Okay, all right. I gotta stick railings everywhere now. This looks like it was built in real life by somebody who didn't feel like modeling anything. I love it. We make our cube, we delete these faces, we bevel these points here, we create another cube inside and maybe like a mount or something behind it. Make it more interesting, we can bevel these. And here, we'll have it so it can protrude by bringing these a little bit lower, and then we can just stick these like and I can tell it's going well because I'm spending an increasing amount of time just spinning around the model being like, yeah, look at what the lights do. Oh, this is working out. So this is getting close to a base, kind of a starting point. None of this is really the creative stuff. This is just what I need to have a boat that matches the real boat. But now I get to build all these cranes and stuff on top here and really make it look like a sci-fi boat. And I can do that now with the confidence that it's all gonna kind of, I guess I still need to do the windows. There's still a million little things I need to do, and I've since done a lot of them. Just modeled all of this deck stuff last night. I'm just kind of taking it slow. It just ended up being the same modeling techniques over and over and over. One thing that was fun was building this kind of new superstructure on the back, except I'm running into a thing. It was fun to kind of borrow the design language from the rest of the deck with all the railings and all of that, but like the engines here, I like them conceptually, and I wanted there to be this big wad of kind of pipes and stuff in the back, but when I look at these shapes, all I can see are like, you know, bevels and you know, edge loops and things. This looks so hand modeled to me that it's kind of bugging me, even though I tried to model it with like actual sheet metal manufacturing in mind. And so I think I want to go a little bit harder into reference. Like here, this is obviously just, you know, edge loops and insetting and beveling and stuff. And so I want to look at better reference, really go hard on it, and maybe just remodel some of these pieces. But yeah, I think maybe that'll be the next video, or maybe just trying to create a big crane here, because I want there to be a very outlandish crane kind of dominating the top of this entire thing with counterweights and kind of all of that stuff. I want it to feel kind of old school. I like when you see it from a distance, it actually does kind of have that correct texture. That does feel like you're seeing a boat from a distance. I'm really happy with that. Oh, also, I started playing around with adding lights, which I think will be cool to see kind of in the environment as it's passing around. Yeah, that looks a little bit better. So it's fun to see this whole thing. You know, it's been stuck in my head for so long, and I've been sitting on all this footage and all these ideas. And now I'm actually looking back at the episode we already have edited, because we've already edited this entire thing. It's like a watchable episode, but we just haven't done any visual effects on it. And with the knowledge of the wides and the cutaways and things we can do, it's I think we can make it an experience. I'm really excited about that. So with a project this big, with a model this big, what's next? Ideally, I would set up a few key shots from every scene where I know we're going to get kind of like a master view of the boat. And I would line up the camera and reference that model in each of those shots, so I see it in kind of like a real shot context. Like right here, when I watch this, I can see exactly the stuff that bugs me. Like all of this is just too low res. I've got to make a higher res version of the railings. It just looks too low poly. And this will also show me like what the cranes will look like when they're in use, and kind of like inform some design decisions there. So yeah, but seeing like this stuff in the distance, this works really well, actually. I like that blend. You can't really tell where one thing ends and the other begins. So yeah, that's kind of what I do, and then I would just kind of iteratively go through, and when I update things to make it work for this angle, which again is a very nice limitation of the scope. Like, I'm not trying to up-res the entire boat, I'm just trying to make this bit right here work from this angle. Those changes will propagate into every other shot too, and then ideally, by the time I'm done, I'll have a good, nice high-res boat that'll work from most angles, which means usually, like, I'll be re-rendering this shot a few times. So this is like a really low quality. This is like 100 samples. It actually looks really good with that in mind, but yeah, I'll probably re-render this over and over, and this will be like my big master view. Anyways, I'm going down to Open Sauce Convention tomorrow, which will be really fun, and yeah, I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.